Mosaics in southeast Somerset are almost two a penny. There's hardly a year goes by without a new one being discovered. The vast majority of them are just simply patterned mosaics, but this one is unique in Britain in that it tells a story. It was discovered entirely by accident. In 1938, a farmer at Low Ham in southeast Somerset discovered a dead sheep in one of his fields. He dug a hole where it lay and put it in. In the process of doing that, he discovered a small tile about the size of my hand. He thought, next time I'm in Taunton, I'll take it along to the museum, which he did. And it was identified as a Roman tile from a central heating system. And that could very easily have been the end of the story. But in 1945, a local schoolboy happened to be reading the journal that had made a note of this find, thought it was interesting, went to see the farm, and together they dug a hole and discovered more tiles. An excavation followed, and remarkably they chose a spot that lay directly above the mosaic. Luck was on their side, and the mosaic was discovered. It tells the story of Aeneas and Dido as recounted by the Roman poet Virgil in the 20s BC, so it was a piece of classical literature.
Aeneas is a refugee from the sack of Troy, and he crosses the Mediterranean in search of Italy, where he's fated to found Rome. And he's hit by a storm, which is sent by a malignant goddess who doesn't want Rome founded, and that's Juno. He is wrecked on the north coast of Africa, near Carthage, and in the events that follow, Dido shows him a lot of hospitality and asks him about his past, and he then goes into the backstory of the sack of Troy and his travels. And it's partly listening to that story, a very sympathetic story of another refugee, that causes Dido to fall in love. She's also pushed into it, of course, by Cupid, who is pressed into doing this by Venus. Cupid pricks Dido with an arrow, and that's another reason why she falls in love, of course, with Aeneas. Their love affair becomes intense and serious, and they go hunting. And in the course of that hunting expedition, there's a terrible storm, and they take shelter in a cave, and they make love in the cave. The affair becomes public, and there's then a series of intense scenes between Aeneas and Dido, where she accuses him of planning to leave without warning her. Aeneas sets sail early morning. Dido looks out of her window and sees the retreating sails of Aeneas' ships.
They were obviously intensely in love, but Aeneas was on a mission to found Rome and ultimately left Carthage. Dido, in despair, committed suicide.
Some scholars, I think, plausibly argue that the way in which this story is treated by Virgil is supposed to point us to the difficulties that arise if you are unwise enough to have a liaison with a foreign princess or foreign queen who might, of course, have dynastic aims. So the story has a moral edge to it, which Virgil is not slow to emphasize.